Chris for her truth and taxation presentation. And I'll thank you in advance for your budget presentation that you're going to give us. We appreciate that. Mike and I were here, so it was well worth it. Also, we have some awards, recognitions, and celebrations to start with. We also have a presentation by Mrs. Murdoch about the band program and some other items that we need to address and approve, including our budget for this coming year. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Superintendent.
I just would like to recognize our staff and students for a phenomenal year. Our year officially wraps up June 30. So we have been pushing hard. This is our last week, and we're just wrapping up a lot of different things. And so it's now summertime, and I know the staff and the students are excited. And somebody that I am close to had said it's now our turn to slap the parents high five and say, "Tag, you're it." So it was it's nice for the kids to have some family time, and hopefully families will enjoy the summer. So lots to celebrate with that, and we'll be gearing up very hard in July to start the year strong.
Okay, thank you. With that, we have an opportunity for public comments that are agenda specific. So for those of you in the audience, anything that's listed on our agenda is open for comment. In this round of public comment, we will have an opportunity towards the end of the meeting for people to make comments. Anybody? Okay. All right, we have a consent agenda, including our minutes from our previous meeting, the agenda before you, and resignations and retirements that were listed in your packet. I would entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Support.
Brian, Tony, any comments or questions? Hearing none.
I have discussion on the approval of the regular minutes from last June 12th.
Sure, go ahead, Chuck.
I thought, and I could be wrong, when we kind of blew through a lot of stuff last month, or I want to say last month, 2 weeks ago, and we approved administrators' contracts, and we had a roll call vote, which we were supposed to have a roll call vote, and we did not. We just did yeas and nays. And I said before, I think we've done it in the workshop, I said it in closed meetings, I think I said it in public meetings. I'm opposed to that. I think everybody should be able to say yes or no on anything to do with budgets, money. I think that was suggested to us by a board workshop person that was here that day. I thought we were all on the same page because they said, you know, you vote yay on the administrators' contracts. I didn't vote yay, although it does say yay. And there was no nays because nobody ever said, is there any nays? And then we just blew right on through it. So I've got a problem with the minutes from last board meeting because I never got to say nay. And two is that I think that this board, whenever it comes to monetary, whether it's approval of something from last month or in the future, if it's any significant money, we should have a roll call vote that should be rotating.
So
I think that's parliamentary procedure with any government body when it has to do with money.
which particular item are you referring to? So
All
that
the administrative
I'm talking
contracts.
about the one that you weren't able to vote.
On the administrative contracts last June 12th. And I know Joanne wasn't here, so maybe that was part of the problem, and I didn't bring it up then. I'm bringing it up now. That's the time to do it for last month's minutes. I don't know what the feeling is of the rest of the board.
So are you suggesting a change to that to indicate that you did not support that?
Correct.
Okay, so Joanne, can you make that change?
Okay, and what's the, are we gonna have a vote that, on monetary things?
So going forward, why don't we do this? On our agenda, if we have something that is of financial concern or budget concern, let's put an asterisk next to that so that we know that we have to have a roll call on it. Okay, will that be okay with you?
Yeah,
It's just a reminder to
Yeah, I just wanna
remember.
follow standard government procedures, because normally I think when it has to do with, you know, money, we should, because that way, yes, that's fine. That's fine.
It's a good suggestion.
And also on closed sessions, we know that, but we can add it to that one as well, any kind of closed session. Okay? And you're always entitled to ask for a roll call vote if you'd like. Okay? Thank you, Chuck. So with that change, will you still support the?
Yes.
the motion?
As amended.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, any other comments or questions? Hearing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, back to you, Ben, do you have a superintendent report?
Yeah, I have just a few things. I didn't print this off for everybody, but Alicia actually sent this to me, and I've gotten through a good chunk of it. I haven't read all of it yet. It was the Clinton-Genesee County Community Health Needs Assessment Report. And there's a lot of really good information in here about some of the work that's being done around the county relative to children's health. It's almost, in a sense, giving a little bit of an update on services that are available, as well as things that are still in a great need. And so I think there's an opportunity for school districts, and I think we're pretty far ahead of the curve with some of the things that we're doing. But I think we could be a model in this area to really try and provide some support. So I'm going to, I have the hard copy that I'll be happy to pass around. I printed one. I can also send you the email that has it in it and forward it to you from Alicia. It was a great resource, so I appreciate you passing that on. We're constantly thinking about how can we be a good community neighbor, right, and helping people that are, especially our children, because we know if they're not healthy and they don't have food and those types of things, it's going to be very hard for them to participate in the school day. So this is a great report. I'll have it here that you can reference, and then I will make sure you get the hard or the digital copy. I'm sorry.
Can I add a comment?
Yes.
I would also highlight, if you get a chance to read it, the impact that education level and literacy play in children's health specifically. It's quite
Strong correlation.
Very strong correlation. And unfortunately, our area, there's a big highlight to Flint, obviously, but all of Genesee County is below the state average and the national average.
Thank you for that.
Thank you for sharing.
Just a curiosity, did you say in their health or in their economics?
In their literacy and education level, so how that plays a factor into their health overall.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a strong correlation to it.
So they get ill more?
And
Really?
they don't understand their healthcare services either, so there's a lot of correlation between lower literacy level and poor health outcomes.
People may wait longer to get care, and when they get the care, they may not understand what they're given to read and or what they're told.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
And we're below the state level, Genesee County is?
Genesee County, yes.
What about our district? Does anybody have any data on that?
I don't know if they,
Any
I'd
correlation
have to
with the
look
other-
through it all again. I don't know that they break it down to that.
I didn't read
minute
anything
detail.
specific to Swartz Creek in there,
No.
but it does talk a lot about Genesee County. And there's a lot of good work that's being done to try and combat some of this, but I think there's some things that we're doing, like our food program and some of our backpack programs and some of the things that we're doing that can help combat some of this. So I think it's stuff that we want to just continue to do and press into. Kind of speaking to that, I want to just kind of get a temperature check. Sometimes I'll do this just to kind of see where you're at. So I'm not asking you to vote on this right now, but I am asking for a brief temperature check. We have the possibility that we could go next year to have lunch provided for all of our students K-5. That would take a tremendous burden off some of our families. The opportunity for them would be essentially there's no stigma, there's no free and reduced lunch. I have to, fill out the forms. We have met the threshold, and Michael's been very proactive in searching out the grants that would be required to do this. But we could potentially go free lunch for K-5 next year, and so I wanted to get your temperature before we proceed with the application and moving forward, and then it'd be something that we would talk more about in the fall. But is anybody opposed to that, or?
I don't think I'd ever be opposed to something free for our children.
That's right.
So-
I think it's great. I think if
It's
you want to.
amazing.
It's not available K to 12?
It could be down the road potentially. It's not currently.
No.
Yeah. So-
Many
we
school
s-
districts are already doing it.
Any cost to the district?
Several school districts are doing it already.
Some are, yes.
So
Any
how
cost
about-
to the
yeah.
district?
There is going to be a slight cost to the district, but it's actually, will be recovered by participation. So, you never know, right, until it happens, but what you're looking at is, if we increase participation, right, we're getting funded based on the number of students that take a meal. And so if we increase participation, which could happen if kids are going without lunch or they're choosing not to eat, in fact, Michael thinks it's a very likely, he's run similar projections across other school districts. It seems very likely that it'll actually be no cost to the district at all.
Do you anticipate attracting children who currently bring their lunch to the free program?
Yes,
Okay.
that is absolutely something that typically happens.
So how much advance approval do you need in order to implement it this fall?
Well, we would apply this week, before the June 30th deadline. But we could make a decision later on officially, to move forward. It would, just because we apply doesn't mean we have to do it, so.
Will you still, I mean, I wouldn't need to have applications in order to participate, obviously, but would you still collect that information so that we can data track our student population?
Yes, we would, but it would not result in, sometimes there's a stigma when you go up to, get your lunch and those types of things.
So isn't there a correlation between free and reduced lunch levels and the Title I status of the buildings?
Yes, so, beat
So
me
you do
to
have to correct that.
beat me to my next thing. So Title I is a federal program, and we have had Deke Elementary School and Elms Road Elementary School be held in Title I status for school-wide funding for several years now, for quite some time. We actually, next year, are starting something called targeted assistance, which means that, and Chris is gonna talk a little bit about this later, but that actually means that you're going to be seeing specific supports being delivered at the other elementary schools. The intention then would be in 2020-21, those buildings would be able to go school-wide, and that is based on and predicated on free and reduced lunch rates, of which Cyrene Elementary is actually our highest, so.
I have one question. When's the application deadline?
June
30th, you said?
June 30th is the deadline for the application, but there's no obligation. I mean, if we apply and we get approved for it, we can talk about it again in the fall.
Do you need approval by the board? You
Um,
said you were asking for a temperature,
I'm
so-
trying to get a temperature check, so I'm trying to say if
I
there's.
think we go back to Madam President and veer off the agenda and give you approval now for that. I don't see why any of us would be against that. I
No,
can't speak for
free.
everybody else, but I wanna do it now because today's the 26th. If the 30th is the deadline, why don't we just go ahead and put in for it? But we need an agenda change, so I think we should add that.
Yeah, so we can actually go ahead and apply. It doesn't
Okay.
require board action.
Okay.
But what will probably require board action is in the fall when we're setting, our rates and doing all that for the year. We would actually make a motion at that point, so.
Very good.
We'll make that official.
Well, my temperature's hot for that.
Yeah,
I think we should do it. I don't know what everybody else's opinion is, but I'm sure it's the same.
Can't turn it down.
Okay, all right. We're also working pretty diligently on our district improvement plan for next year, which is a part of the consolidated application. Mr. Heatherton is responsible for that primarily, but Chris spends a great deal of time working through that and has been a great support to Rod and developing that. That's required by law, so that has to be done, and we're doing a lot of year-end reporting. And as I said before, just wrapping up this school year, and so when we come back in July, when we hit July, we're gonna hit the ground running and prepare for next year, so that's all I have for now.
Okay, thank you. And tell Michael, thank you, please,
I sure will.
for all of his work on that. I don't believe we have the informational items, which we don't have any non-certified staff this time. And, unless we had a finance committee that I'm unaware of,
Nope.
we don't have any, okay? Board discussion items, we are at the music and band education presentation. Mrs. Murdoch.
Mrs. Murdoch will come forward and talk about the band program.
Okay. Well, a recap of last year to begin with, 2018, 2019 highlights are, first, we started the fall with the marching band earning straight ones. We had a marching band festival and a 90.8, which was over 10 points higher than we anticipated. at the Mining Invitational. We moved right into Halloween. We did do the homecoming parade in the fall too, and it was much nicer than the year previous. That was 95+ degrees. 7th and 8th grade band had a Halloween concert in the fall. That was really well received. I don't know if you can see in the very back, there's a really big thing. That was a T-Rex percussion section. It was really cool. The percussion section of the drumline of the marching band, it was mostly the same kids that did both. Capital City Brass Band came in the fall and did a performance, and some of the drumline came in and played for that audience. And then they also performed at the Veterans Memorial on Veterans Day for our ceremony there, and it was cold, you can see by the hoodies. December was very busy. Sorry, it's off the screen here. Middle school solo ensemble, every band had a concert. So 6th grade and jazz band at the middle school, 7th grade, 8th grade all went together. We had the high school band had the Christmas parade, and that was pretty good, wasn't it? It wasn't too cold last year. It was pretty good. I think it was in the 40s for that parade this year. High school band had their holiday concert. We had tuba and euphonium players participate in Tuba Christmas. That's a around the world thing now. It used to just be a local thing, not just a local here, but and it's all over the country. One of my friends actually that I know from brass banding had the biggest Tuba Christmas in history in Kansas this year. They had, was it, how many thousand? They had over 1,000 people participated in that. He conducted that. That was pretty cool. This is the 6th grade band at their, what we call their world premiere concert in the fall and Christmas time. And they did a great job there. 7th and 8th grade band also had one. I'm not including a high school slide just for time today. They had an awesome concert with the jazz band and both high school bands too. January, we had 6 high school students and would have been 6 middle school students, but one got ill the day before that qualified for the District 3 honors bands, and they performed at Holly High School. That's an honors band day. Students are nominated by their director, but they also, to get in, they'd like them to receive a 1st division rating at state solo ensemble as a high school student the year before, and middle school at district solo ensemble because they do not have state solo ensemble at the middle school level. February, we had Swartz Creek High School students participate in solo and ensemble, District 3 at Brandon High School, and earning superior ratings, and most of them opted to go to state festival. There was, I think, one student that was unable to go because they had a family obligation that conflicted. On March 1st and 2nd, we hosted one of the sites for District Band and Orchestra Festival for District 3. And we had 4 groups perform, as you can see, there's 7 days. Concert band and wind ensemble all performed and all had great performances, receiving superior and excellent performances in their ratings. Right after that, shortly after that, we were off to Disney, and this is a shot the day we were at Epcot, and later that evening, we went and did a workshop, your instrumental workshop with Disney composer, conductor Alan Gray. If you've heard of Matrix Music, he is one of the owners of Matrix Music, and you guys would agree he was pretty awesome to work with. These kids did just amazing things. I do have a video that he did that evening. It was just a 2.5-hour workshop that he spent actual time with them. They recorded 2 pieces with him in that amount of time. It was fantastic. Do you think that was the best part of the trip? I think it was. I personally did too. Then the next day, parade down Main Street at the Magic Kingdom. So that was 75,000 people, they said, were there that day. And I hear that there was a Mr. Manka sighting at more than at Epcot. Also, our 7th grade band, concert band, was eligible to go too. They opted to not because they had Disney this year, and we were getting ready for Disney. We would have had 2 weeks to clean it up and get ready to go to state. And they said, let's focus on our Disney stuff. But 7th grade band was one of only 7 groups in the state of Michigan at the 7th grade level to qualify for state festival this year. So they did a really nice job. Jacob, winter is here. Anna Hill and Isaiah Bolden, they all three represented our school district at District 3 Honors Jazz Band. They were nominated and got to perform with those groups that day. And our spring concert with the Mega Band, with Mr. Mike having his hip replaced, we combined groups and played together. That was kind of neat, because some of the kids, we had worked together as a whole team since the fall, so it was fun. And Hometown Days Parade, we had 7th grade and then the 8th grade through high school bands performed there. Our upcoming show is Music of Motown for the fall. Music is in. Color guard uniforms, we found a really good deal on those, being $10 a piece from a good used site our instructor knew about. Working on that stuff. This is summer activities in the marching band. Some of these folks are going to be going to drum major or color guard camp at CMU in a couple weeks. Freshmen and drumline come in with the color guard the week before band camp, the long band camp week. And then we'll have evening rehearsals, prim, and our first home football game against Hannity is the 29th of August. Welcoming to our marching band staff this year for the fall, the gentleman in the very center, the shortest one, Daniel Cole. He's a Swartz Creek alumni, and Daniel is going to be hanging out with us through the whole season this year. He worked with the drumline at band camp last year, and they just loved him. He had to finish up, he's finishing up some basic studies in Bont this year, so we're very fortunate to have him in the area. He was the section leader of the drumline at Western Michigan this past year. So he's a great kid and super excited to have him on board. So the middle school is gonna have a little restructuring this year. Mr. Claren and the counselors and I worked on this since mid-year. We started talking about this. 6th grade and beginning band, any student that has not previously taken band, that's kind of an understanding they're in that beginning band, and if they progress to where they can jump up to their grade level, so be it. That's a good thing. Dragon band will take the place of 7th grade band. It will be 7th graders only. Symphonic band will be 8th graders and select 7th grade students. They had a test that I typically would give at the beginning of 7th grade, and I gave that at the end of 6th grade this year. And students that were the top graded students, they received a 4 on that test, on our rubric, and they were also the top 4s in their sections. There are 10 students that have been invited to be in that upper group. So that will only make the upper group stronger the following year when those kids have had some experience with the harder music. And middle school jazz band will continue to be after school as it has since my very first year here in 1998, I started the jazz band. I did it for 13 or 14 years, and then when my daughter was a senior in high school, Mr. Mike said, hey, would it be okay? Or it was right around there, Rachel was in high school. And I said, that's great. So he took that over for several years, and then I started back with it this year. So love doing that group, and that's middle school for the year. High school, all current course offerings are going to be maintained, and we're looking to broadening the potential curriculum, adding some things, but we don't know who the person, that will be coming in, where their strengths will lie, and we'll play it from there, we're obviously adding Dan to the drum line.
Excuse me, did you just say we'll play it from there?
Well, yes, sorry, that's and it wasn't intended. I haven't had a lot of sleep. We're on vacation, you don't sleep on vacation. But curriculum changes, not really, we have to see who that special person is and where their strengths are. There are things that we're thinking about, but we'll see. Obviously, everything that we do now will still be there, and we're just gonna add on. One of the things may be a percussion ensemble that we've looked into doing before. Our Dragon Spectacular this year happens to be on November 11th. So we thought, why not make it a night to honor our veterans also? I actually sent a message to a dear friend that's several years older than me. She was a military bugler, and she was in the Army brass band, and then the Herald trumpets that you see at Christmas, that Christmas in Washington DC. Unfortunately, she decided to have braces put on with her kids, and it's messed up her playing now, so we're looking for somebody new. I'd love to get the guy that played for President Reagan's funeral. He's from Michigan. I don't know if Woody will be in Michigan. If he's in Michigan at that time, he may do it. He's the next person I plan to ask, but we'd like to do something special for the veterans, and I'll be talking to the boosters, just so you know, about what we can do. I have some ideas, but I'm sure they'll have some great ideas too. So, there we have it. Any questions?
Any questions for Jean?
You know, I think last year we were discussing, I think, Mike, you brought it up about the instruments and having instruments available, low cost or no cost. Has that program kicked in, or is it working? Is that happening?
We have some instruments, that's more at the middle school level. We have had a couple of students that have gone all the way through the program with a loaned instrument from the district. You know, we had a trumpet player, he's been out probably 7 years now. He was a very good player, and he started on a school instrument and played all the way through. He's definitely a winning story for us. But a lot of times when we loan them, they might not stay, but at least they tried it. And obviously we have kids that are tuba players, euphonium players. They don't buy those instruments all the time. Euphonium, some of them do. Ryan Melvin, who's a high school student now, has actually, I think, all of our high school except for one new one own their own. Tuba players don't.
Tuba or French horn, what kind of cost?
French horn, they have their own. Most of them have their own. Those are around $3,000. Tubas are more.
Yeah.
A good concert tuba, $3,000 to $4,000. You know, a decent one. You could spend $10,000 on a tuba, but you don't want to put those in a kid's hand in school. That's a college. You know, like a Miraphone tuba is probably.
I'd just like to see
$6,000 to $10,000.
kids that had the potential, students that had that potential and that want that desire. It'd just be nice to see them outfitted,
Right.
even if they couldn't afford it.
And we have told the Marshall music reps when they come in and fit kids for instruments, if they need help. And I have a student who's coming in that's gonna play trombone. We've had several trombones donated over the years, and they're in the closet, and my husband tested. How many trombones?
All of them.
I know, but weren't there like 15?
There was some very nice ones.
And there were some pretty nice ones, and one is in the hands of a young man that couldn't afford right now, that's going to 7th grade, and he's actually going up to that symphonic band. He was first year trombone as a
Great.
6th grader. And we have an incoming 6th grader that's gonna be using a trombone from that grouping too. So he just checked them out and said, this is the order you want them to go out. You know, but maintaining sometimes the instruments that are donated. Some are in better shape than others. Some are good lamps, they'd be, you know, and people make money making lamps out of instruments. Anything else?
When they get donated, do we log those in, that school property? You said that you keep them at home. I mean, do we?
Oh, yes, I sign those out.
Okay.
Yep. Anybody takes an instrument home,
No, I meant when somebody donates an instrument,
they receive a tax write-off.
and we log it in as a used instrument, and here we have an
Yep.
inventory of it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Mrs. LaGrove's just sent one home. Last week, we had a trombone come in last week, so.
I don't have any, but I'll ask around. Maybe somebody
Yeah, if you
will.
have somebody that wants to donate, we could use, we could definitely use French horns.
As long as my kids play, we still need loaners.
Yeah. You need them.
They were so expensive.
So Jean, I know we're looking at the budget tonight, but just based on what you know, what is it that you need the most going forward?
I was, going through the inventory at the high school. The high school is in need of some, they need a bassoon quite badly. Our bassoons that are the upper level bassoons. We have 2 plastics that were bought, probably 10 years ago, 8 to 10 years ago. And they work fine, but they don't have a full set of keys like a child that would make the wind ensemble at the high school level. They have to have a full set of keys, and the plastic ones that we have are more middle school for the range that those kids would play. The range that a kid in high school in the top band would play is gonna be much broader. You know, they're gonna be playing more notes, you can't reach them all if you don't have a full set of conservatory keys on that instrument. Our bassoons that were full conservatory are circa 1940s. And one of them is so warped, it cannot be repaired. So it's not, they have done their duty, both of them. Bass clarinets, the high school needs bass clarinets also. The drum line needs some stuff down the road, but it'd be very nice to have a marimba someday for the percussion section, because there are a lot of parts for, especially the upper level literature that call for that, and we don't have that. But that's a very pricey instrument too. So, hopefully it's something, we could find somebody that was getting rid of them at a good deal. I have a former student who used to have one, I don't know if he still does. Might sell it.
Alright.
Thank you so much,
You're
Jean,
welcome.
for all you
Thank you.
do, and thanks for sharing with us.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Ben, my suggestion is that she makes out a list of what she needs, what we can afford, and let's move forward from there.
Yeah, it's good.
What's a need and what's a want.
Mhm.
I mean, there's a lot of talk, but we didn't get the question answered.
Mhm.
What do we need?
Yeah, well, I'm looking at bassoons and bass clarinets and possibly a marimba, but.
Do we have any money in that budget?
So, I have to sit down with Chris and look at that.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay. Next, we have our Neola policy package. This is our final reading.
Yeah, so, just a couple things. This, you guys have had these for a while now. This is a pretty easy pack, actually. Most of the stuff are new policies or basic revisions. One note I'm taking from policy committee and other conversations that we've had. There is a couple options. One of the options on voting, my latest guidance and understanding from you is that we were not going to be having, board members participate remotely. That was my last guidance, I believe, is that correct? Okay. The other options that were there, we take a roll call vote to go into closed session. We actually just talked about that a little bit. And feel free if you have anything else that you'd like to ask. One thing we didn't talk a lot about, I did talk with a few of you at policy a little bit about crowdfunding. This is something that's obviously more recent with GoFundMe, Kickstarter, you know, the campaigns that get taken off. My recommendation, of course, is that they would have to be applied towards specific classroom or school activities, and that they'd have to be approved by central office. We would wanna have those protections in place, which is option 2, just because you wouldn't wanna have people, every teacher set up a GoFundMe or Kickstarter, and then we're trying to track where are those funds going. The other part here, that's an important part of this policy, is that as soon as funds are donated towards a specific purpose, if we take those funds in, they have to be spent according to those purposes. It's not money that just comes in and floats around for other miscellaneous tasks, so, that piece is there as well in the crowdfunding section.
So for example, then, donors choose.
605?
Yeah, 6605.
So donorschoose.org, which is a site
Yep.
that teachers are able to publish their needs, and so that's what you're talking about, something like that too?
Yes.
Okay.
That there would be a little bit of, I think it's wonderful, but there's gotta be a little bit of tracking and control so that we don't have people that are, for example, requesting things that the district is already providing. You know, it would be a duplicate ask that we wouldn't want parents to feel that's truly a need when there's, and it might even be that a staff member might not know that, so just being able to develop an approval process for that. And it's obviously something new with the, you know, crowdfunding era that we're in right now. Most of the other policies in this package, they're pretty straightforward, they're pretty much responding to legislation that's come through. A lot of them deal with, Paid Medical Leave Act. Most of our employees are already covered under that, but our policy should be reflected and updated according to the statute.
Any questions for Ben? All right, next we have budget presentation for the 2018-19 and then the 2019-20 budgets.
I'm gonna ask Chris to come up and share some insights.
Okay, we're gonna go over both budgets, but, let's start with 18-19, finalizing it. So just a general overview, fund balance beginning about 7.6% of, general fund expenditures. That's from last year, the remaining fund balance. Our revenue is, a little under our expenditures this year, so we're projecting at this point, an operating, loss of around 64,000, bringing our ending fund balance projected, of course, down 7.2%. Very small, but, just a little bit more detail, so, revenue broken out in this column here is your final budget compared to your previous budget, just the difference. And then this column over here just compares where we ended up with actuals last year and where our final budget is. Just kind of gives you some comparisons to look at. And the revenue is broken out, local, state, and federal, as normal. So projecting about $38 million in revenue. That's pretty small, sorry about that. And then it just breaks it down by function code. It's similar to the resolution, which this is how we've been presenting it, so,
You have the packet right here in front of you as well.
Right.
If you wanna.
The $72,000 that we're short, what line item were we, was it any one single line item that we did not estimate the most? Or, you know, is there something, or is it just across the board on all the line items a little bit here and there?
well, if you look at on the next page, you know, like, these are the things that changed. This is what happened. So we had, looking at comparing the two budgets, we had $830,000 in revenue changes. But if we break it down, it's understandable. So we had a decrease in property taxes, so our property tax revenue decreased. And that happens, it seems like every year, the county gives us an estimated property tax, and we put that in our L 4029, and we estimate our property taxes. But then when we get to the end of the year, they revise it, and then we update it. But the net effect really doesn't harm the district, because we're made whole on the state aid side. So, so property taxes went down, bringing childcare and community ed into the general fund, obviously, you know, that's a huge increase. And then, PAC revenue, we're estimating it to go up, which is offset by increased expenses too, and then increasing Medicaid, sale of vehicles. And then, so change in the property taxes made the change in the state aid, so the net of those two were to the good about $70,000 of state aid and local property taxes. And then, there were some other miscellaneous changes on the state aid, and then some grant changes. I mean, it kinda highlights, there's a lot of detail behind those, but I think those are, major components of the revenue changes. On the expenditure side, you know, our expenditures changed by more than that, which is, the difference is what our loss is expected. So, we had, from revision 1 to revision 2, we had to add the final textbook purchase, or there was a 5-year payment cycle, or 3. This is the final payment that we had to add. It wasn't in the original budget, it wasn't in the revision 1. And then we had the retirement incentive, that was an add. We didn't know at the beginning of the year that was gonna happen. And then we brought in community ed, and the general fund along with childcare. Those were significant expenses. And then, so used to make a transfer to supplement those programs, so we could eliminate that because they're in the general fund, so.
One of our programs or a couple things, one of our programs that was significantly behind this year was our Early Learning Center. Them getting off the ground, trying to figure out the right rates to charge families, and also how we paid to staff it, and who our our oversight staff were. And so we've made changes, and so we're projecting that we'll be able to bring that back in line, and that alone would account for any shortfall. But there were some other things. There was a $100,000 textbook bill that is once every 8 years that comes out, and so this was the year that we had to re-up for that. It really kind of hit it early on in July last year, so those things obviously have an impact as well. And our athletic expenses were higher than anticipated, and so Chris has got a much better handle on that, I think, for this next year, so that's a good thing.
So just breaking down by what made those changes.
I don't think Chris will say this because she's trying to be ultra conservative, which is exactly what she should do. But the other piece is we don't know what the final audited number is gonna come out, and it's possible that we could be better than we're looking at right now, so.
Well, we have some, since the revision, I mean, I tried to do the revision at the latest possible
Yep.
moment in time, but some things have happened since then, so we have
Sure.
our final payroll, we have final payments. So
Yep.
it's trending very positively, so there are some
Yeah.
things that happened that, I think are gonna make us a little better than we expected, so I'm hopeful. So this is probably worst case scenario, that's what I'm thinking. I would never wanna put something out there where we're like, oh, our revenue didn't come in, oh, our expenditures were higher. And we just don't wanna be in that position, so.
Yep.
So food service, we're revising, we didn't revise in the last revision one, so they just had an original budget and just, it's pretty simple, just operating surplus of around $11,000. So that is not a lot of, it's mostly federal and state, a little bit of student sales, and then expenses is mostly food and people. So, their budget is, pretty straightforward. There's a lot that goes into it. I mean, I'm not simplifying what Michael's doing, but, the budget standards, it's pretty simple. So, it looks like they're gonna be able to add to their fund balance, but we're staying within the confines. He bought a lot of equipment this year, because we had an issue in the past where there was an excessive fund balance, and the state sets guidelines on how much fund balance you can have in the food service fund. So we're well within the rate we should be, so that's good. Any questions on 18-19?
Is the food truck part of that, the food budget?
Well,
or
we did, we
general
did have
fund,
some
or-
expenses related to that, so, those are included in the expenditures, and there'll be some more for, 19-20, but yeah, there are some.
But that does fall under the food?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Speaking out of that budget.
Yeah.
In the second week of July, I didn't say it in my report, but he brought it up. He would like to invite anyone that would like to go. I know Chuck, you had mentioned wanting to go, and they're gonna start going out into the neighborhoods to serve food, so it'll be live. It'll be fun.
Second week in July, you said?
Mhm.
Good. Yeah, Can you go back one page, please, Chris?
Sure.
Help educate me. The revenue, 1 million?
Yep, 1.6, almost 1.7.
And we actually spent a little bit less. That's why
Right.
we have a little bit more fund balance.
Right, yep.
And what's the state say we're supposed to have for a fund balance if we have to spend it?
There's like a formula, and it's,
Okay.
for about $400,000, we should be, investing more in equipment, or higher quality food, adding staff, those kinds of things.
So that's what we have to do if we
And that's
have
what
too
we've
high
been
of a
doing,
fund
yep.
balance. Okay.
And that's why this
But-
year it's looking really good, because, he's bought new equipment and,
And we're
he's
still
really done-
close to a good fund balance.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's great. I think
All right.
this year it's working at a great level. Like,
Thank
you
you.
don't wanna cut it too close, but can't have it too high.
I just wanna know what that number was, what we got. Real fast. Thank you.
So moving on to 19-20. Just some of the things that we're gonna talk about: current legislation, enrollment data, program and investment changes, staffing and benefits, and then we'll look at the detail. On the legislation side, we're estimating in this 19-20 budget right now at $200 per pupil increase. Between the different executive, Senate, House variations, it's conservative. There's anywhere from 347 to 180, so we kind of chose 200 to be conservative. It's a guess. I don't know if you want to add anything to it.
Yeah, I think everything that we're hearing, as Chris just mentioned, we've got a range of, there's 3 chambers, right? And they all produce a budget and then they have to come together. The initial couple budgets were well over $300 a student. The last one was 180, so we wanna stick closer to the most conservative number because you're likely gonna be at least that. And so, again, as we've said in the past, when you're building the budget for next year, you're basing it on assumptions because we don't actually have from the state a budget number that says it's gonna be exactly this amount. So we feel like $200 is a good conservative estimate. And so that's what we're gonna build the budget on, and then that will help us, you know, if that number ends up being $240, then that will be great news at a board meeting in the future, instead of, you know, us telling you now it's 240 and then it comes in at 200, so.
Any idea when they're gonna have that?
They should have that by the end of July. I mean, they typically have had it even before July
Yeah.
1, but I just read something today that they're talking about not having a summer break, so that they can get some of these things done, which would be admirable. I hope they do that.
We have a significant amount of money that we receive from the state for at-risk, and we're being conservative once again. We don't have any idea of changes, so we've budgeted for a 0 increase on at-risk, compared to 18-19. And we're pretty sure that we're gonna lose 2 of our categoricals, about $29,000 on the 22N high school pupil support, which we use, to offset some of our sub-costs. And then the 104D, we use for, Renaissance Learning. It's a license for, I'm not sure, but do you know what that is?
That's our screening test, Star Reading, Star Math, K11. The last 3 years, 104D has offset that cost. They're talking about pulling it.
Yeah, so we'll have to, we've made some adjustments in some of our, other budgets to accommodate those areas. And
So-
then our,
So I would just add to that again, in all of these assumptions that you're seeing, those things have not necessarily been pulled, but we've heard that they likely could be, and so we're basing our budget forecast on the worst case scenario, because especially the first one out of the gate, you wanna be there.
and our federal grants, we're anticipating initial lower allocations than, what we have currently for 18-19. And we talked with our, consultant from MDE on the consolidated application, just kind of, you know, why, and she's just said that they're being conservative, so, because they're not really sure what's happening at the federal level, so that kind of trickles down to us. We get less money, but, so we're funded about 85% of what we currently have, on like Title I, Title II.
So what's that come out to, dollars?
Decrease?
Yeah, dollar-wise, you said 85% is what you're.
Oh, for like Title I, we have $450,000 as opposed to $530,000.
Okay.
Enrollment data. So, obviously our state funding is based on how many pupils we have. So, it's a blended count. They take 90% of the fall count and 10% of the spring count. So, what we had to do is kind of estimate, you know, what is our enrollment going to be for the fall count, because obviously that hasn't happened yet. So we came up with looking at some numbers and doing some analysis that we're estimating 45 loss compared to the fall of 18. So that makes our blended count around just shy of 3,600. Once again, if our student, you know, if our count data come in higher than the 45 loss, then, you know, we'll be able to increase our revenue. And if we lose more students than we anticipated, then we'll have to adjust down. So it's just, it's just a guessing game based on some facts or some data that we have.
The data's based on what, student count, right?
Well,
Spring and
trends,
fall, yeah.
trends. I don't know if in the one packet that I had sent, there was a grid that showed by grade level in the year. I feel confident that it's realistic.
We have good, the best we've had in about 5 years early kindergarten registration. So, lots of good feedback from parents coming in. If that's a sign of things to come and our kindergarten class ends up being as large as it could potentially be, you might not be looking at a reduction of any students, you know, but we're trying to follow historical trends and make a guess again that's realistic.
Program and investment changes. So one of the big things that we're working on this year is focusing our Title I funds on salaries and benefits. It really came to a head, we had an audit, and it's really difficult managing the grants when we have supplies and inventory and we're buying equipment. We're focusing it on salaries and benefits because they're easy to manage, and if you budget a salary and benefit, it more than likely 95% to 100% of it will be spent, as opposed to supplies that maybe didn't get spent, weren't planned for, and you know, maybe you spent 25%, so you end up with a leftover carryover, and that's not good. The state doesn't want to see that, so we kind of refocus our efforts on getting those dollars spent on salaries and benefits. It's just the way it's more efficient. So all of our elementaries, we've reconfigured our Title I so they all have Title I funding. Deacon and Elms were previously Title I, so they had gone through the process to become school-wide buildings, and it just allows broader use of the funds, and they will continue that. But the other three buildings have to go through that process. It's a year-long process, so they're considered targeted assistance, so that means it's one-on-one help. So you have an aide that's working with only Title I students, not as opposed to just an overall class. And then, as we spoke of earlier, there's not going to be a curriculum adoption or textbook purchase. We're going to add a vehicle to the operations department. They really need to. We'll see what we can do. They would love it if we could make it two, but at this point, it's just one. And in the technology department, due to having so many opportunities in the bond project to purchase instructional technology, Chromebooks, and I can't even think of all the other things that we have going on, but we're gonna be able to reduce the supplies in the technology budget by $77,000, so that helps the general fund budget. And then we're adding $80,000 for academic assessment and supplies, and you know, we were talking about like the Renaissance learning and some of those things that are coming back in because of, you know, reduced categoricals. Okay, staffing and benefits. Staffing and benefits district-wide represent 80% of our budget, so it's a pretty good chunk. The teacher's FTE at this point is 191.5. Some of the changes that happened, we had 5 retirements, we added a social worker at the elementary, and we had 3 retirement replacement hires. Is that confusing? Out of the 5 retirements, we replaced 3 people. We added a math instructional coach, and we had some part-time adjustments. People went up and down slightly on the part-time positions. And then on the admin and central office staff, we had an overall decrease of 1 FTE. We eliminated the child care and community ed director position. We combined the assistant principal, one of the assistant principal positions at the middle school, with the virtual learning center director. And we have a new central office director, compliance, curriculum, and communication. And so when we talk about staffing and benefits, retirement rate is a benefit that's included in that benefit area. The rate increased from 39.71, or increased to 39.71 from 39.37. So it's not that, it's still an increase. It's certainly more palatable than increases we used to see.
Is the 39% what we pay for an employee's retirement benefits?
Yep.
So if you make $100,000 a year, we're paying an additional $39,710. That was.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep. And then health insurance hard cap, that's included in the budget. We saw about a 2% increase on the cap. And then the other benefits, dental, vision, life insurance, we also increased, projected a 2% increase. So that's included in the budget as well.
Chuck, to give you some perspective, when I started on the board, it was about 16.5%.
I'm just thinking about that.
So, yeah, so the 39% is just, because I know I wanted to do my own janitorial staff, or at least I suggested that we look into it. So this number is, if we have our own employees, at 39% per
Yep.
hourly wage, or dollar amount.
And then also the FICA would be, so
That's
FICA would
7%, yeah,
Yep.
FICA and Medicare is 7%.
Yep.
And then I'm going back up to where you had 5 retirements. We didn't have any retirements because we added a social worker. We had 3 retirement replacements, which is 4, and we added an instructional coach, which is 5. So we kept the same amount of employees in.
Yeah, just kind of shifted what was hired back, so we have the social worker, which I think they needed.
Why do we have the early retirement then, to get rid of some people, I thought? I think because I thought we were doing that so we saved layoffs. So we were to have 5 retirees, which would save somebody being laid off, but nobody got laid off because we replaced 5.
Right.
Right, yeah, so we had not enough, we had 5 retirements, which we were able to
We actually had
maintain.
7 total, didn't we?
Well, just specific to teachers, we had 5, so, but we had reductions in other areas, and so we were able to reduce by, we had 2 other resignations, that might be what you're talking about, so, yeah.
And then we added a new central office director, compliance, curriculum, and communication.
We added a position and we eliminated 2 positions administratively.
Okay.
So we eliminated an entire administrative position.
And where's that at? Child care and community ed?
Yes.
Who's gonna do that now?
That's being split between 3 different groups of people. We have a child care lead position that's out at Little Dragons.
Mhm.
We have community education, which is being picked up by both athletic department and the virtual learning center.
So the community ed director is being picked up by the virtual learning center and the, who was it?
And the athletic department.
Why do we add the new central office director?
We have a lot of things that have been required of us by the state and by the federal government. Those things are, as we've talked about, numerous times over, there's more things that have to be done and completed that get slipped through the cracks. Most districts have a myriad of people in that kind of middle management area that are doing those tasks, depending on the district. We're pretty bare boned, and so we decided that that was going to be the best bang for our buck in terms of being able to support our kids and our staff. And we figured that we'd be able to utilize our services differently at the Little Dragons area as well as community ed and the virtual learning center to be able to accommodate for that. So we knew we had to save money, so we did, and we actually decreased our overall administrative staff.
What's that person's name? Who's this administrator?
Kevin Clarence.
That's the guy that came from the middle school, right?
Yes.
Thank you.
Just overview of the budget, estimated fund balance, beginning fund balance is because we haven't finished 18, so it's estimated at this point, but it's the carryover from our previous, revision, that I just presented, 7.2%. Revenue over expenditures, we're looking at a slight loss of about $60,000 at this point, but a lot of unknowns, but it's a good starting point. So we're estimating of ending fund balance around 7.1%. And then that sheet is hard to see again on the slide, but just breaks down your revenue, local, state, federal, and then your expenses by function code, and shows your operating loss and your percentage estimated for fund equity at the bottom. And then in the blue, on the blue side, we're comparing the final revision that we just had to the 1920. It's a good perspective to see where we're at compared to where we're expecting to be at for next year. And then we have some graphs. Revenue, the majority is state funding. It's always state funding. And then we have federal grants and local revenue. State is 77%, local revenue 18%, federal 4%, and then other, miscellaneous other at 1%.
how's the food blended, in all federal or state, or a mixture of both?
A mixture of, actually, there's some local too, because they take in sales from students. I didn't do a graph on food service, but, it would probably be pretty similar.
Would that be underneath your other?
No, it's
Food
not in
service-
general fund.
foods- Yeah, food service is a different fund, completely separate. So this is just general fund. On expenditures, you can see that if you combine instruction, which is 59%, with the people support, which is the other part of the instruction, we're about, I can't add, 70%. So you anticipate that your instruction is about 70% of your budget, so we're right on target there. And these are just some of, I tried to make it a little easier to see than the last time I presented this. So there's a little bit broader, categories, so like general support would be, executive admin along with board operations, obviously the operations, transportation still the same, essential services is technology, HR. Just try to make it a little bit easier to read. Just a graph of our fund balance over the years, and it's stabilized. Hopefully we can see a increase at some point. If we can get that to happen, get an upward trend, that would be great. And then just another view of our expenditures by object code. We talked about that 80%, so if you add the benefits and salaries, that equals your 80% of your budget. And then purchase services, 14%, supplies, 5%, dues and fees, 1%, and other, hardly, I don't know, can't even make a percent. Student activity fund, this is the new fund for the year. It falls under the special revenue fund along with food service, so under a special revenue fund, you can have a breakout or different categories of what's considered a special revenue fund. So this is one type that would be, the new activity fund. So we're estimating, there's no beginning fund balance at this point, but we're estimating revenue and expenditures to be equal. We had to start somewhere, and we'll have a lot of work on this in July, moving forward into the fall to kind of nail down exactly where our balances are at ending 18-19, so we can get, those budget, or those account numbers and budgets out to the buildings.
What groups would it be in that student activity fund? What various groups?
Well, like say, for instance, at Moorish, they have, if they go on field trips and things like that, their teachers would collect the funds and send them down to the office and deposit. So those kind of activities, or, athletics, they have some sports that will, maybe have a camp. Coach will collect funds for the camp and, make a payment through, that would go through the student activity fund. High school.
Any of the boosters?
No, not boosters, no, they're separate.
They're separate.
Yeah, yeah, so activity funds would be specifically for things that aren't covered under the general fund, they're not instructional things, so totally, like clubs and, I don't know, quiz bowl, robotics, those kind of
I
things.
got the idea,
Okay.
thanks.
Food service is also considered a special revenue fund. We're estimating the beginning fund balance, and this is a really broad estimate at this point, revenue and expenditures. We're looking at obviously, an operating, surplus next year. I can't speak very well, excuse me. So we're looking at an increased fund balance next year, but at this point, I know there's gonna be a lot of changes. So this is a very broad view of expectations for next year, but, we're anticipating we could have changes in programming with, that application going through, so it would change our budget significantly, so.
If we do the K through 5, free food for all, is that what you're talking about?
I'm sorry?
The
Yes.
K through 5?
Yeah, that could change the programming a lot, and how, like, we wouldn't be taking in as much local revenue, so it'll be more federal, it sounds like federal or state funding. Expenditures probably be pretty consistent, so.
Yeah, if we take in money, it's gonna be consistent, so even at these numbers.
You probably wouldn't see the change in this
Right.
broad level.
Right, but we could still feed the kids that need it, because it looks like we have a significant
At this
fund
point,
balance.
Right.
I mean, if we didn't get, we're gonna get, hopefully we'll get it, but if we didn't, it looks like you show some
Yeah.
increase.
And it looks like we can afford, if there are, slight decreases in revenue on the local side, that we'll be able to afford it.
Okay.
So,
The other thing that this state really likes us to do when we start to see an increase in the food service fund balance is to, we've done a lot to try and invest in higher quality food, but they wanna see that just doubled down on, so
Yeah.
getting the kids even, higher quality fresh fruit and things like that, we have done a lot of that already, but even just to bring in even more of that.
Yeah,
Well, it
fresh
sounds
fruit
like we're
is a
on
big one.
the
We're
right,
getting a lot of
yeah,
fresh fruit.
the right line there, according to your numbers.
Mhm.
Kind of.
Yep.
Good.
Is the K-5 program for the food, for lunch only?
No,
No.
It's breakfast free, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, in Swartz Creek, we're the only district that I'm aware of that offers dinner as well.
Yeah, then we do the take-home form.
Mhm.
Yeah. So,
Does anybody have any questions?
That's currently free.
thank you, Chris. Thank you. It was a very good presentation.
Thanks.
Hope your numbers are right.
Any
Close.
other questions?
Don't, I mean, you can never count on it, right?
You do your best, right, with
Exactly.
what you know. Thank you, Chris, very much. Okay.
That's part of the process.
Moving on, we have several board action items, beginning with the Neola policy package that we've been reviewing and looked at for the final time tonight. I would entertain a motion to approve the policies as presented.
So moved.
Support.
Brian, did I hear Brian and then Mike? I think. Any comments or questions? Be it resolved that the Swartz Creek Community Schools Board of Education approve the policies as presented. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so for the next one, Joanne, I'm gonna ask for a roll call. This is for the final budget amendment for 2018-19. I would entertain a motion to approve as presented.
So moved. Support.
Tony, Mike. Be it resolved that the Swartz Creek Community Schools Board of Education approve the 2018-19 final budget amendment as presented. Those in favor say aye. Oh, sorry, roll call. Habits are
Brian?
hard to break.
Yes.
Chuck?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Tony?
Yes.
Jessica?
Yes.
Alicia?
Yes.
And Carrie?
Yes,
7 yeses.
thank you. Motion passes. All right, next we have the approval of the 2019-2020 budget. I'd entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Support.
Support.
Tony, Alicia, can we do a roll call, please? Oh, let me read this. Be it resolved that the Swartz Creek Community Schools Board of Education approve the 2019-2020 budget as presented.
Chuck?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Tony?
Yes.
Alicia?
Yes.
Jessica?
Yes.
Carrie?
Yes.
7 yeses.
And the motion passes, thank you. Next, we have the approval of cameras for the high school and elementary buildings. Did you want to
Yeah,
talk
I'll
about that?
just real quickly, it's in your board packets there. This is a bond purchase. We've started with the security measures here, so we're installing security cameras at the middle school, high school, and elementary buildings. And so this RFP was done through the ISD. We ended up getting our costs significantly reduced on these, so we're even doing significantly better on our budget for that in the bond. But the $83,618 will be to deploy those cameras this summer so that they're ready for the fall and be ready to go.
Okay. With that, I would entertain a motion to approve as presented.
So moved. Support.
Brian, Tony, can we do a roll call, comments or questions? You do a roll call, please?
Okay. Jessica?
Yes.
Alicia?
Yes.
Carrie?
Yes.
Tony?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Chuck?
Yes.
And Brian?
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. All right, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Joanne. We'll get this straight sooner or later. Okay, and with that, we are going to public comments. Anybody who wants to address the board, please stand, state your name for the recording secretary. Keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. Anyone? Going, gone? Okay. All right, comments and questions from the board, anybody?
I'll just do a quick update. I attended the Genesee County Area School Board Members meeting this last week, since Jessica was out. So, that was my first introduction to that group, so I was kind of a newbie, but there was a presentation by Collins and Blaha. So Attorney Blaha did an Open Meetings Act presentation, which was pretty enlightening, coming from an attorney's perspective, and a lot of examples. So I'll actually leave this for Joanne, if you don't mind, maybe sending out a copy to everybody. Just there's a page in the back, or a couple pages in the back, that gives some examples of scenarios from boards and whether it would be in violation of open meetings or not, and those were kind of interesting to go through. And then the only other thing is, from that group, there are 2 reps from Genesee County that have sat at the state level on the Government Relations Committee. So they work directly with lobbyists that sit before our state legislature regarding educational changes. And they're pretty powerful because they speak for MASB, really, to go before the state legislature. So their voice does really carry a lot of weight to our lobbyists. So those positions are currently open, so we don't have anybody at the state level representing Genesee County at this time. So if anyone's interested, throwing that out there.
Was anybody interested at GICP? I mean, did you hear any interest?
It was a small group, I think, given that it was a summer meeting, and it was the first that they announced that those positions are open. So there were really only 4 or 5 of us, other than those 2.
That packet you have, has it got like the flashes and stuff on it of what the highlights were?
This packet is the Open Meetings Act presentation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, you're gonna give that to Joanne, so we
Yep.
get a copy. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else?
I just don't know if we should have our comments now or until after we come out of closed session. Isn't that always at the end of the meetings, or is that done
Not
before?
necessarily.
Oh, okay. Oh, all right. For public, okay.
We'll go back into open session after our closed session.
Right.
Anybody else? I just want to thank Chris for your time and efforts for all of the presentations this evening and for answering our questions and anticipating them, I know. And also to Jean for your presentation and for all of the work that you're going to be doing with our very talented students and those that don't know that they are yet. So please come back to us when you need help or you want to share good news. And with that, we have a need to go into closed session for the purpose of the superintendent evaluation, OMA 15.268, Section 8A. I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Support.
Tony, Jessica, and could you do a roll call, please, Joanne?
Sure.
Brian?
Yes.
Chuck?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Tony?
Yes.
Carrie?
Yes.
Jessica?
Yes.
Amy? Alicia?
Yes.
Okay, so we will go into closed session. Let's take a 5-minute break, and after which we will go into open session. Okay.
Carrie,
Sure.